Hello and welcome. This is a follow-up for the the overview I did on this in Minecraft working Tardis. In this video, I'm going to be going over the redstone for it. So if you didn't see the other one, it's going to be in the description if you don't care for the redstone. I'm also not going to explain as much of what the Tardis is supposed to be in this video. I'm just focusing on the redstone. And so, let's just jump straight into it. This here, the main clock. This here be what powers everything. Except for the lights, they can work separately because of the way I have that set up. And so, basically, probably gonna be saying that a lot. What the main clock does is it just refreshes everything as frequently as it pulses. Every single time it pulses, it refreshes. It's not like instant, but it's quick enough. This here is what moves players from interior to exterior and marks as outside. So basically what's going on is over here the clock is powering two command blocks. One places a redstone block and then the other one places an air block in the exact same spot, and that spot is right there. And so it's constantly powering this command block. And what it basically does is it executes the command at this entity right here. And what this basically does is it has the bunny that's marked as what the Tardis is being tracked for, I don't know. And the score thing is to make sure that the Tardis currently is not in the middle of moving when it does this. And so if that all checks out, it'll then run the command at these coordinates here, which is just outside the door. And what the command basically does is any players within 2 blocks of the command block have their move score set to 1. So then the clock is constantly powering this command block, which checks if a player has a move score of 1. And if so, it'll then teleport the second Tardis bunny to outside the door. It teleports the bunny to right here in relation to where the Tardis is, which is over there right now. And then, okay, it's empty below. And then it teleports the player to that bunny, and then teleports them to be looking at 90 degrees on this, I don't know, so that it makes sure that the player is looking that direction. Because the door of the Tardis is always going to be looking that direction. For some reason, when it teleports the player, it'll teleport them looking that direction, sort of. Don't know why, but that's why I have it teleport them to exactly where they're currently standing, but facing that way. And so it makes it a bit smoother and more believable. And it'll then check if the door is currently open or closed. And what it does is I believe there's another command block that's constantly copying this door here to over here and into here. And it basically compares... No, what it does is it copies the door to over there, and then it compares that door with this door. So this door is unaffected. This door is just there. And that's a comparison door. So that if this door matches this door, it'll know that the door is currently closed. And so therefore, it'll know that if the player is currently walking out of the Tardis and the door is closed, to play these sounds. And what these do is they're play sounds. They're the play sound command. It'll play it inside the Tardis near the door and outside the Tardis at one of the Tardis bunnies. And I believe if I type this in, it'll work. Yep. And then also plays this one. Oops. Yeah. Oh, that's supposed to be close up here. Didn't know about that. Know about it now, though. So now if we do it again. And so yeah, that's to create the illusion that as you walk out of the TARDIS, you're opening the door and then closing it behind you. But after it does all that, it moves to here. And this basically teleports the second TARDIS bunny back to the first one. And then it'll set the player's in TARDIS score to 0, which basically marks them as outside the TARDIS. That'll become relevant later. And then it marks their move score back to 0. It has a delay so that this thing can finish in case it's gonna go. So that's how it moves the player out of the TARDIS. This chain here is updates that happen less frequently. So it's still powered by the same clock, but it's not as frequent. And it does this by basically just having a scoreboard that's constantly being ticked up every single time this updates, and it only runs this when it reaches a certain number, and then it will reset it back to 0. And this part here doesn't work, and it's not important to the TARDIS functionality. But anyways, this is what grabs the door from the TARDIS interior over there and puts it to over there. And then this refreshes the exterior TARDIS with a template if the TARDIS isn't moving. So if the TARDIS is currently moving, it won't do this. So basically what it does is it clones the area from this block here to like about here or so. And so what it does is every single time this pulses, it's copying this template to over there at the moment, but if the TARDIS were to move, it'll move with it. And this trying to think what this does. I'm not sure what this does. Pretty sure it does something. I'm pretty sure it's important, but I'm not sure what it does. Yeah. And this bit here basically just removes any entities in the world that aren't needed. And the reason why I have that is so that basically I don't want like entities being over here but not in front of the TARDIS, or in front of the TARDIS but not up here. Because if you're inside the TARDIS walking out and you see a cow here, and then once you're on the outside you no longer see the cow, it breaks the immersion. But I can't just do a thing where it kills all entities except players because we've got all the bunnies that it uses. But basically, it'll do that. It doesn't kill the mob because that would cause the mob to go through its death animation. So so the mob would have an existence for a tiny bit longer. But so instead, what it does, it teleports the mob below the bedrock and it'll die down there. So it disappears quicker. And so that's what this whole thing does. And that sets a block over here to run this thing. And then this part over here, since this command block is already checking if the TARDIS is currently moving, I just have this here, which basically, whenever this command block receives a pulse, this will turn on if the TARDIS is not moving. But if the TARDIS is moving, this will turn off. And so what this basically does is just a bunch of AND gates here to make sure that it's actually working. So this is in charge of the flashing animation, so it constantly alternates between cloning this over and cloning this over, which creates the effect of the TARDIS flashing in and out. And this middle point here is when the second TARDIS bunny is teleported to the main TARDIS bunny, which is what finally moves the TARDIS to the new destination while it's still flashing. And that's what this bit does. This is here so that the signal will have to go through this block before it can go along, so that it can make sure that this will only trigger once when the TARDIS moves. But anyways, other things that the main clock does is this. The sign explains it all. Yep. That explains it all. Yep. Not sure what it does. I think it might be the door, but like I said, that's over here. Although it's the same command. Yeah, this grabs the door. Okay, yeah, it grabs the door. Doesn't need to, though. It's over there. We can get rid of this. Don't need that. That'll be taking care of the anti-entity thing. This keeps the second TARDIS bunny looking west. That was the original solution to the whole issue where the player is looking that way when it's teleported. It doesn't have a purpose. I can get rid of it. This triggers a command block at interior TARDIS. I was talking about that earlier. It's that over there. This places it, then that removes it. This removes all slimes. Because this is a super flat world. It's very close to the bedrock. And it's not on peaceful difficulty in case we ever use like hostile mobs for decoration. Because if we give a mob a special name, or I'll probably add something where we can toggle like a keep score on it, and then the anti-entity won't remove it. And so, but I'm pretty sure we'll never need to use slimes, and slimes spawn extremely quickly this close to bedrock, and so I just have all slimes being removed. This moves the player from the exterior to the interior and then marks them as inside the TARDIS. So what this does is it's another execute command, exactly the same as above, except instead of the main TARDIS, it's doing the second TARDIS. And then it's toggling a scoreboard at players within 1 block of the bunny. So you have to be inside the TARDIS. In the move to score, that is specific to moving into the TARDIS. And this teleports, well, this sets all players with the move to score of 1 to have a in TARDIS score of 1, so that it now knows that that player is inside the TARDIS, which again will become relevant in a bit. And then this teleports them into the TARDIS and sets their move score to 0. And this, it's not labeled. That just clears the weather so it doesn't rain. It's very simple. I have that there so that, because rain creates lag because the game has to render it and all that. Yeah. Yeah. Then we've got this bit here. This is when things will start to tie together, like all the random things that didn't make sense before will start making sense now. So basically, if you click here in this book, or there's a button inside the TARDIS console room. If we go inside, the button will trigger a command block, and that command block, so the command block's right down here. If you're to click in the book or press this button, it'll run that command, which sets a redstone block. sets the redstone block to over here. Right in there. And what this does is these 3 command blocks copy this here to here, then here, then here. And this basically does the animation and the sound for the bit that moves up and down inside the Tardis. And this is when the in-Tardis score will begin to make sense, because it'll play the sound to everyone who has an in-Tardis score of 1 and anyone within a certain range of the exterior Tardis. And so that way, if you're outside the Tardis, you can only hear it if you're close to the exterior Tardis. But if you're inside the Tardis, then it doesn't matter where you are, you'll be able to hear it fine, because you're inside the Tardis. It would make sense, you know? And so these commands are exactly the same going all the way along, except for a small change if it's currently moving up. So these 3 are moving up. It'll play the piston out sound, and then the other 3, this, and that, it'll play it as down. And the reason why this one plays as down is because it starts with it being at this position here, and then this one here clones will move it down 1. And so those 3 play piston in. And so that way it'll make a different sound when it's going up and a different sound when it's going down. I'll demonstrate that bit right now. It also has this particle effect. It's the portal particle effect. The actual Tardis in the show doesn't really have an effect like that, but I just felt like adding it because I wanted to. And when it reaches the end here, it'll remove the redstone block and it'll clear all this. And the reason why it clears it all is so that basically what it does is use a template so that it's really easy to change the design for this. So if you wanted to change how this looked, we only have to change it for these instead of the entire thing. And the reason why it clears all of it instead of having the template down here, which I used to have it, is because if it was down here, even though it would finish the animation, the redstone pulse would have to finish dying out. Because if you tried to trigger it again and the redstone pulse was still going through, it would have an issue. But if I just clear it all, then the redstone pulse gets cleared with it. Because redstone pulse never goes through this part here, so yeah. And this part here is sign explains it. Basically what this is supposed to be for is just if you're at a location, you can call the Tardis to that location instead of just pressing this one and hope it randomly picks yours. Yeah, as you can see, this is all copied in. Then copied out. And then, well, it just decided to go there again. But yeah. And so when the signal goes along here, what it does is it'll teleport the main Tardis bunny to a random Tardis pause bunny. And what the Tardis pause bunny is if you go down in here, all the locations have a bunny named Tardis pause. And so basically it'll just pick one of them out of random to teleport the main Tardis bunny to. And I'll show you the main and secondary Tardis bunnies right now. It'll be difficult to spot them because of the refresh thing. But you can see them in there. Yeah, they're in there. Oh dear. Well, yeah. It was just having issues, but it was able to fix itself. So these are the 2 Tardis bunnies. One of them is in charge of keeping track of where the Tardis is to clone the Tardis to that location, and the other one is in charge of like teleporting the player around and the animation. So what this does, once it picks one of the Tardis pause bunnies to randomly teleport the Tardis to, it also sets the moving score to 1. And then when it sends the Tardis bunny, well, I'll show you with this one over here. The Tardis pause bunny's down here, but the Tardis bunnies are supposed to be up here. So once the main Tardis bunny is teleported over, it needs to be teleported 2 blocks up, so it's in here, where it's supposed to be. So that's what that other command block does, the one with the sign on it there. Yeah. And this one teleports, well, that command block replaces the beacon here with a sea lantern, which is these blocks here. And the reason why I have that is because in the show, if you haven't seen it, when the TARDIS is moving, the light on the top will flash on and off. And since I believe the beacon does emit light, but whether it does or doesn't, these emit more light. And so that creates that illusion if it was dark enough to notice a difference. Which it never is because it's permanently set to there. So that we don't get hostile mobs spawning all over the place. And then it sets the second TARDIS as moving. And so then this thing will know to start. Yeah. Yeah, forget what this upper command does. However, if we go down here, this command block basically copies the in-flight sign into the TARDIS. So if we come in here, you've got the in-flight sign. Because at every TARDIS pause bunny, in the same block space as the bunny, there's a sign basically giving information on the location. And I didn't want it to keep that information while it was moving because it's no longer at that location. So this sign is for when it's in the time vortex. When it's moving. And then it continues on to do the animation. And then it teleports the TARDIS 2 bunny to the TARDIS bunny and continues the animation. And then it sets a redstone block to over here, which then gets rid of it, and this will just copy the template there to it one last time to make sure that it's actually there. And this is on a delay to make sure that the signal is completely, to make sure that this is done pulsing here before it puts that block back, because we don't want the animation to trigger again. And then this resets the template, so it replaces the sea lantern back with a beacon block. And then it sets both bunnies as no longer moving. So that's how the TARDIS moves. And I believe that's the majority of the redstone. The only other bit is this thing here, which does the sonic screwdriver, which we can also get from inside the TARDIS. As well, you can get these 2 books from inside the TARDIS. You would know if you watched the other video. So basically, since the door here is marked as a door bunny, which is 2 blocks below it. So if we trigger this, it'll open the door. It doesn't play sounds yet, but I'm planning on adding that. So it does play sounds. And so what that does is this is constantly being triggered. That sets the redstone block there, and then this clears it. And this basically, forget what this does, but we can just look at it. Oh yeah. It teleports this bunny over here. That's right. This bunny is used for something. Oh yeah. That was the whole Tardis call thing that I don't have set up yet. Well, this bunny is used for when it's moving a door. It'll teleport this bunny to all the because what the command in this book here does, it sets the sonic score for that bunny down there. Well, any bunnies named door within 5 blocks, or well, any entity named door within 5 blocks, but we only ever use bunnies for it. To have a sonic score of 1, and then that will teleport the door M for move bunny to all those bunnies, and whatever bunny it's at, it ends up at last. Because even though it's teleporting it to all of them at once, it'll only do one at a time when it's actually going through it in the game's code. And so whatever one it ends up at last is the one it'll do this all for. So what it then does is it will clone the door above the bunny, and so it doesn't do anything while it's here because there's nothing above it. It'll clone the door to here, and it'll then teleport the bunny back to here because it's no longer needed at the... Does it? Really? Oh, yeah. I just noticed in... What? Oh, that's on a delay. Right. Yeah. I got confused there for a second. It'll then set the sonic score for the bunny in that area to 0. And then what this part here does is it checks the door here with all of these doors here. So there's a door here for... These doors are for when the door is closed. So these are all the... This is every single position the door can possibly be in when it's closed. And this is all the positions the door could possibly be in when it's open. And so then when it checks out as one of them being a match, it'll then copy the opposite door to that location. So right here. Yeah. It's a lot more noticeable if we trigger it ourselves. So if we do this. Well, I tried to grab the redstone block in time, but I couldn't. So now if we trigger it, since the clock is no longer running for that bit, it won't go automatically, but when we trigger it over here, it'll go. And you'll see one of the comparators light up as the checks out as a match. Yeah, it was that one over there. So the door that it checks with this command block came out as it matched, and so it teleported the opposite door to where it was, and so I'll hook this back into the main clock. So that's how that works. And this here is how you would get a door bunny spawn egg to set up one of those anywhere. It currently only works with wooden doors, but oh well. It would be simple enough to set up more doors. It's just a matter of setting up the template there and just expanding that for the other door types. So now if we go into the Tardis, we've got more redstone to look at. We've got the light switches over here. Now what these do is they set a redstone block to over here, this position here, it clears it, and it runs this T flip-flop. Well, it's not really a T form, but that's just what I call it. So basically what this does is any bunnies that are named Tardis Light, so these bunnies here, all of them, they'll either have a diamond block or a sea lantern block set below them. And that's how it toggles the lights. And you can get a Tardis Light bunny spawn egg with this command block right here. And so you can see that right now it's currently sea lanterns, but if we trigger it, it changes to diamond blocks, which don't emit light, so it all goes dark, and we trigger it again, and it goes back to sea lanterns. It's very simple. These things here to get the Tardis key and the Tardis in the sonic screwdriver are just give commands that give you a book with a bunch of NBT tag stuff that I don't understand. I just copy it from the wiki and change what I know how to change. It's basically what this does. It creates a book with a line of text on the first page that when you click on it runs command, and so yeah. They're very long. So that's how you get these two books here. Oh dear. Now if we move on to the pool room, which is the only other area that has any redstone because of the racing lines. Instead of light switches, we have these racing lines here. This redstone is actually very simple. It's down here. It basically just copies this to the different positions for it. Those command blocks that you trigger with the buttons up there basically trigger this, which is a T flip-flop thing, exactly like the light setup. And so what this does is it just, the bottom row copies this area here, just 25 blocks up. Or no, that's an exact position. That's not 25 blocks up. That's 25 on the y-axis. So right here is 25. Oh well. Oh well. And so all these commands are the exact same. The X and Z here is the same for all of them. It's just the X and Z are relative to the command block where it is. So all these commands here are the exact same. Just copies that at this position on this axis, or this position on this axis at Y level 25, and the position way over here on this axis, because that's where it's supposed to end up. And then the top row does the exact same thing, except with the row of blocks above it, because those are air. And so that's how it clears it. Now, that's about it. People who know the basics for redstone, and like people who at least know the basics for redstone and using command blocks and stuff like that, and scoreboards and set block, this should all make sense if you just think about it for a bit. People who have never really messed around with redstone, you can tell I've talked for a while when I start screwing up my words. For those of you who don't really know all that much about redstone, I understand. This probably all went way over your head. It makes no sense, but sometimes it doesn't even make sense to me. But I figured it out. I can do this. This is what I enjoy doing. It's very frustrating when it doesn't work, but when it does work, it's very satisfying. So yeah, these two videos are. The other video will be linked in the description, and this video will be linked in the description of the other video. And so these two videos just go over this TARDIS as it is right now. We're still working on it. As you can see, there was an unfinished room, and the hallway is supposed to keep going. But the redstone is pretty much done, unless I think of another cool idea to add in, like the getting the TARDIS call thing to work. And there's also this thing here. This is just a play sound for this sound right here. It basically just plays it to everyone who's marked as inside the TARDIS. So if we... Oh, we're currently marked as inside the TARDIS. Great job. We're supposed to be inside the TARDIS right now. Get in. But yeah, it can only toggle whether or not you're inside the TARDIS when you move through the door, but it's not that big of a deal because when this is done, the door should be the only way to get in and out unless you break your way through. But yeah. That's about it. So I'll see you guys in the next one, if there is a next one. I have sort of gotten out of the, basically what happened is the only world that I ever did YouTube videos in was my main survival world, but after an accident trying to take on the Wither, I lost all my stuff and haven't really been in the mood to play it since. So, yeah, if there is a next video, I'll see you then. See you guys in the next one. Still don't know the combination to stop it, so I have to, yeah.